Hello my Beatles friends, welcome back to another video. A first video of 2026. So first of all, let me wish you a happy new year, very successful, quiet, peaceful year, and I hope we finally get some serious stuff from the Beatles. Today I would like to talk about a specific topic that I began a couple of videos ago, talking about particular Beatles songs which are relatively, forgotten and not mentioned quite often as the other songs. And I was listening to White Album recently and I thought to myself, hey, George Harrison here really shines, So I decided to make a review of 3 George songs from White Album, which are Long, 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 Piggies and Savoy Truffle. I think that While My Guitar Gently Weeps needs no introduction. It's one of the greatest George Harrison songs, and also it appears on several Greatest Hits albums and Red and Blue albums, so it's a relatively known song. And the others are also known. They are not forgotten. They are very well great songs, but you don't see them quite often on compilation albums. So I decided, they need some more attention. So in this video, I'll try to cover all the stories, how these songs came about, the recording sessions, and who participates. I'll try to be very short. So let's begin. First song, Piggies. I will be using as a reference George Harrison's I'm a Mine autobiography and some other books, The Complete Beatles by Mar Levison. Okay, so I will be mixing the information. Also, I found some information on Wikipedia. There's nothing new. I just decided to concentrate everything in one video. Okay, so like I said, Piggies. Piggies is a social comment. I was stuck for one line in the middle until my mother came up with the lyric, "What they need is a dang good whacking," which is a nice simple way of saying they need a good hiding. It needed to rhyme with backing, lacking, and had absolutely nothing to do with American policemen or Californian shagnesties. You can see from the facsimile that an extra verse was written but not used. That extra verse actually was used, but not on the Beatles record. It was used in George Harrison Live in Japan concert. Now, the reference that this has nothing to do with policemen was all sometimes misunderstood, misinterpreted. Is a reference to George Orwell's novel where pigs are depicted as ruling tyrants. Social commentary and Orwellian satire on greed and consumerism. This song is infamously known as one of the songs that inspired Charles Manson and his, cult to commit several murders, including Sharon Tate. They murdered 8 people, and they said that they took the inspiration from that song, which was very, very upsetting, and that's not what George meant. Just because the utensils are mentioned in the last verse of the song, this was one of the weapons used by Manson family, which was really upsetting for George. George said that it was a tame song, and the line "damn good whacking" was suggested by his mother, as mentioned in his I'm a Mine autobiography book. Now here comes a bit technical stuff. The song was recorded on 19th and 20th of September 68, and then later on 10th of October 68. The mixing was done on 11th of October 1968. Although it's mentioned the producer of the song is George Martin, but mainly it was produced by Chris Thomas. It was recorded in 2 studios, in Abbey Road Studio 2 and Studio 1. Why? According to Mark Levison's book, it says here the following very interesting information. Chris Thomas wandered into Studio 1 and spotted a harpsichord that had been set up for a classical session the next morning. His idea to move the instrument into Studio 2 was vetoed by Ken Scott, so instead the Beatles shifted their session into Studio 1. And also Chris Thomas played the harpsichord and was also paid extra fee for that. In totally, they made 67 takes of that song, and the last one considered to be the best one. And what's also interesting about this song is that this song George Harrison began to write before the Revolver sessions, but he forgot about that song, and later, 2 years later in '68, when he was visiting his parents in Liverpool, he found the drafts of that song and he finished it. And that's how it ended up that his mother suggested a few lyrics to that song. Song number 2, Long, Long, Long. That's a good one. The story of Long, Long, Long is a bit simpler than Piggy's. It was just an inspiration by Bob Dylan. From his album Blonde on Blonde, there is a song which is called Sad-Eyed Lady of Lowlands. It takes the entire side of one of the 4 sides of the album, and George wanted to make something similar because he liked the chord sequence and changes in that song, which were D to E minor, A, and D. And he wanted to create something similar. The working title of that song was It's Been a Long, Long, Long Time, later shortened to Long, Long, Long. After Beatles parted ways with Maharishi and came back from India, George remained the only Beatle that actually continued to be inspired by Indian culture. And despite not being in touch with Maharishi, he still was inspired by Indian culture. And you in the song is referred to a god, as mentioned in his I'm Mine book. Later, George even produced one of the albums by Hare Krishna Temple. That's the album. The U in Long, Long, Long is God. I can't recall much about it except the chords which I think were coming from Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowland, D to E minor, A and D. Those 3 chords are the way they moved. There was a bottle of Blue Nun wine on top of the Leslie speaker during the recording, and when our Paul hit some organ note, the Leslie start vibrating and the bottle rattling. You can hear it on the record at the very end. There was also a mistake that happened during the recording sessions, and that's what we have on the final version. Technical stuff. The song was recorded on 7th, 8th, 9th October '68, and it was mixed on 10th and 12th October 1968. 10th of October 1968 there was only a stereo mix made, and on 12th of October it was a mono. One of the rare cases where Beatles made first the stereo mix and then the mono. But it's '68. It would be funnier if it was '65, because that's the case that happened also with Help. As it was habit already by that time, John Lennon was not present in the studio, so there were only 3 Beatles recording that song, including the overdubs, which were Paul, George, and Ringo. Song number 3, Savoy Truffle. Now, Savoy Truffle is a very funny one. It refers to Eric Clapton's habit of eating chocolate. As it is mentioned once again in the autobiography book, Savoy Truffle is a funny one, written whilst hanging out with Eric Clapton in the '60s. At that time, he had a lot of cavities in his teeth and needed dental work. He always had toothache, but he ate a lot of chocolates. He couldn't resist them, and once he saw a box, he had to eat them all. He was over at my house and I had a box of Good News chocolates on the table and wrote the song from the names inside the lid. I got stuck with the 2 bridges for a while, and Derek Taylor wrote some of the words in the middle. You know what you eat you are. Technical stuff. The song was recorded on 3rd, 5th, 11th and 14th of October '68, and the mixing was done on 14th of October 1968. And what's interesting, that 14th of October was the last recording session for the White Album. Once again, organ and piano on that song was played by Chris Thomas. Also, 14th October session marked once again working on Long, Long, Long mono mix, and also other songs, including Savoy Truffle and other Beatles songs, mixing into stereo and mono mix, because it was the last recording session for the White Album. So that's about it. That was my view on George Harrison's 3 songs from the White Album, which I think are underrated, but they are not forgotten. They are very well known, and they're really known, and I think they need to be used on several greatest hits albums along the years, but neither of them was used anywhere. Now let's talk briefly about personnel and Mostly I mentioned several times Chris Thomas, and Chris Thomas is a music producer that was working mostly on White Album because George Martin was in a holiday. And he was also working with Pink Floyd, with Sex Pistols, with Inks, the Beatles, and many Procol Harum, and many other bands. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you like this short informative video. Once again, I'm not saying that these songs are forgotten or unknown or whatever. They are great, wonderful songs, very well-known songs. Just I wanted to concentrate all the information and technical information into one video, and I hope you like it. And I will see you in my next video. Also, one of the songs that was recorded for the White Album sessions but was not used is the song Not Guilty. I deliberately didn't mention that song in the video because I will be making another video about George Harrison's songs written for the Beatles but rejected and later emerged on the Harrison's solo albums. So until then, thank you very much for watching. I hope you like this video, comment and subscribe to this channel. And I'm looking forward to see you on my next videos, and I will try to make consistently 2 videos a week. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.